Welcome to the Free to Be Free portal, where we cheer you on for your most exquisite and empowered lives. I'm your host, Julia Ananda, and I'm here with Gene Key's guide, Margaret Miller. Margaret, I'm so happy to be here with you today.
Hi, Julia. I am too. I'm I'm ready for this discussion today.
Awesome. So you're going to be bringing forth the energy update for the week through the Gene Keys and the Sabian symbols.
Yes, we're looking at Gene Key 20, which is the shadow of superficiality, the gift of self-assurance, and the Siddhi of Presence. And then we'll look at the Sabian symbols that are associated with those degrees of the zodiac.
Sounds wonderful. And I love how you weave both tools together for us to bring through the important parts of the energy for the week.
Awesome. Well, let's go ahead and get started. Looking at this at this gene key is, it's awesome. It's perfect timing for me because I was finding myself in a very hectic mode, and when I do that, I skim the surface of things, not able to go into things with depth and focus and clarity. And so it's really an important shadow, important gene key, but also just, it's a really prevalent shadow. How much of our time and our lives are we actually not fully present? You know, either so caught up in uh, worries, thoughts, and fears, and um, you know, ruminations from the past, or worries and anxiety towards the future, and totally missing the present moment. And I always very much like to look at uh, the two different aspects of the shadow here, the repressive nature and the reactive nature. And the repressive nature here is absence. Like when our eyes glaze over and we're completely not here. And how many times in a day do we do that? Or the reactive nature is hectic, where we are running from one thing to the next, and really trying to get to that moment where we can actually sit down and relax and be present. And so um, I was laughing about that today because I noticed myself switching back and forth between those two modes, even as I was preparing for this, to record this with you. Oh, this is absolutely perfect. Here I am in the midst of this. And so what is asked for here? What's really called for here when we find ourselves being absent or being hectic? And obviously, in order to move out of a shadow, we have to recognize that we're in it. And so all of our practices that have to do with mindfulness, anything that has to do with bringing us into mindful awareness, looking at being able to see inside of ourselves and see where we're at, but also to be able to see and take in what's in front of us and not tune out, right? There's so many examples. When we're in a long-term relationship, sometimes we will be we listening to our partner talking and then realize that we totally checked out and were because they said something that you know brought our to-do list into our mind, and so we totally miss half of what they had to say, for instance, and then come back and have to say, wait a minute, what did you just say? That kind of absence. But it's also really more than that. This superficiality is this fear of, well, there's a lot of different fears associated with it, but our drive for success or wealth or power or just trying to make it in our lives causes us to skim over things that are actually quite important. And so the main key to this, and one of the Richard Rudd talks about this in the transmission for the 20th gene key, which always I'm going to put a plug for the gene key pulse, and we'll have a link for it below. That gives you this beautiful access to the gene key of the week and this connection with other people who are also contemplating this pulse. So if you haven't done that already, I really highly recommend it. But he talks about this in this gene key, that it's a crucial gene key for all of among the 64 gene keys, because it's bringing into our awareness the importance of contemplation and what that really is, and how it's sort of a midway between meditation and deep thinking, right? It's holding something in presence, in our awareness, and turning it around and looking at it from different angles. Could be happening while we're doing the dishes, could be happening. So it's this, it also is talking about the power of the pause, like taking the pause. And so to move out of superficiality and to begin to feel the energy of self-assurance, because you wouldn't necessarily think that that's the word that would come next from superficiality. But when we practice contemplation, or we practice mindfulness, or we practice heart-centered awareness, we come into a space, and we open up space inside of ourselves for clarity to arrive, and for in that emptiness, perhaps, where that mindfulness actually is an emptiness, in our thoughts cease, or at least move into the background, then we can feel this depth of calmness and this lightness, of being, that allows a feeling of self-assurance. Because I just did it right now, right? I was starting to feel a little spinny in what I was going to say, and so I slowed down, and oh yes, there it is. There's that feeling of whatever I need to say is going to come through in the proper moment. And that's that feeling, that's self-assurance. And when we practice over time contemplation, when we practice over time mindfulness, when we practice over time stopping and allowing ourselves to follow our breath in and out. So many practices, the coming into heart-centered awareness, deepening our breath, right? Then that is the self-assurance is a natural outcome of that because we're not in the future anymore. We're not trying to chase the future or relive the past. We are actually ready and willing and present in the moment. And so that Siddhi of presence then is when we are actually, this is just my interpretation of it, when we have become the witness, when we're fully in our body and breathing deeply, and what we have to offer is this incredible space of receptivity that where the other, if it's another person or the the where what's in front of us can feel completely received, right? Where we're looking, and this is what for me the practice of heart-centered awareness is all about. And I think that's what the practice will do in the meditation today, because then we're looking out through the eyes of source, through the eyes of the highest aspect of our being. And we all have glimpses of this, and we all have many times when we're not in that. And so one of the keys to this is to really, notice when when we've been absent, and acknowledge, oh, I've been absent. So I'm going to do something right now in this moment to bring myself back into presence. I'm going to take a deep breath. I'm going to stop. I'm going to pause. I'm going to feel into my body. And then I'm going to continue. And another beautiful thing about this is to take if we do have what seems to be a very hectic schedule, to slow down, which seems so counterintuitive, but slow down, choose one thing, focus on it completely, right? And then move on. And so we know when we're present. We don't know necessarily when we're absent until after we come back into presence, right? But we know when we're present because the life force is there and the energy is lively and crackling, even if we're very, very still. So I want to share I'm going to shift gears now and just sort of try and weave the Sabian symbols into this. So we'll see if I can share my screen here. Okay. So, sorry, here we go. So the Sabian symbols here for Gene Key 20 are Gemini 1 through 6. And we've already talked a little bit about the Sabian symbol for Gemini 1. that it is a glass-bottomed boat uncovering undersea wonders. And so there's just a little bit of overlap between those two. And so just talking about this a little bit, it is giving us this picture or a glimpse into what's underneath things, what's in the depths of our consciousness, and these beautiful things that can come. And so you can see how you can't really get the clarity to see those beautiful wonders if you're absent or if you're hectic, so forth. I'm not going to talk too much about it because I already did. So Gemini 2, Santa Claus furtively filling stockings. I love this symbol for this, associating it with this gene key, because there's several things. First of all, there's this furtively, that energy kind of has that feeling of hecticness. And you think about, filling stockings, or sort of the rituals that a lot of the, our society has developed around, around the Christmas, is deals with superficiality to the extreme, to the point where we don't even know what a lot of the symbols actually mean or are about. But really, what this Gemini 2, this Sabian symbol, is pointing to is also those gifts, and really trusting in the gifts of life that are there for all of us, and how, if we are patient and wait for them, that they will show themselves to us. So then Gemini 3, the Garden of Tuileries, is, you can see it's quite a structured and organized and beautiful gardens, but it's talking about sort of the formalization of collective ideals, right? It's taking all of these different ideals that we deal with and bringing them into a hierarchy or a structured form. And I'm not as certain. It's funny how sometimes I know how to bring this into the gene key, but you can kind of, I guess you can look at things how, if we just go with sort of the structure and hierarchy, because these were the gardens, they were in past eras, were, for the wealthy and the well-to-do, and they were often, it was often at the expense of the common person that these things were funded, right? And so there's this feeling of moving into like what's really important in the development of the collective consciousness. And I see the presence and mindfulness being well, actually sort of being displayed here in this garden as well. So that was my attempt for that. Gemini 4, and we have sort of another interesting sort of something that's often associated with Christmas here. And holly and mistletoe is Gemini 4. And so this is helping us to come into a deeper state of consciousness holly and mistletoe were in ancient times very much associated with uh, really sacred rites and having these qualities of holly, I believe, had was like for protection and also for a symbol of eternal life. And mistletoe was a representation of peace and love and fertility. And so you can kind of see how, on the surface of things, how we see, or how even I'm not involved much in Christmas kinds of things, but uh, how I associate it with that. I associate holly and mistletoe with Christmas, and that's sort of the superficial aspect of it. I had to look up what their deeper meaning was, right? And so bringing that into presence and really allowing ourselves to feel into the gifts of the sacred herbs, for instance. Gemini 5, a radical magazine. And so you can feel, it's in the description of this by Dane Rudier, he's talking about sort of this explosive energy that comes out we know we're at a point where things need to change, and the energy can get very, very hectic and very, very chaotic, and it requires someone to be able to articulate uh, and to do so in a powerful enough way that others can feel that energy and rise to the occasion with full presence. Okay, so that's my that's my take on that one. And then Gemini 6, men drilling for oil. And so this is, then you can see on the superficial end of it the unrelenting drive for power and wealth, and then also the the deeper meaning, like really diving deep and actually mining for the treasures that are in the subconscious and in the superconscious, in the depths of our beings, and bringing those into presence. So that's my little share on that. And just feeling into if there's anything that came up for you that you'd like to um, comment on.
Well, the Radical magazine is interesting. It's 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 quite different from the other symbols.
Mhm.
And that really intense energy that you're talking about was interesting to me. And you said, if I heard you correctly, that it takes someone else to come in and understand. Did I understand that correctly?
Well, it takes someone with an extreme level of presence to be able to harness that energy in a direction that that will be of benefit,
Okay.
and the Radical magazine, in a sense, is articulating that. It's putting it into print, putting it into words that then other people can take in, rather than um, somebody ranting and raving and screaming from a platform, or even the just sort of the some of the darker parts of revolutions and so forth, how the messages get mixed up. Whereas the Radical magazine is maybe giving us the opportunity to see something from a completely different perspective and go, oh, wait a minute, I may have been caught up in something that doesn't really serve the highest good.
Right.
But that's one interpretation of it. There's these are archetypes,
Mhm.
right? So they can be interpreted in so many different ways. And so as I'm doing this, I'm just feeling into what it's sparking in me right now. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the interesting energy of needing to change, and it's really can be like an aggravated energy that if other people are around and you feel that need, you start yelling or poking at other people, and then that gets everybody aggravated. But I love that description of it takes someone with deep presence to say, okay, what do we really need to do? What is there for the common good? Or how can we harness this intense energy towards something that we actually want to create?
Right. Instead of ending up in some sort of a bloodbath or whatever, or a argument or something that doesn't serve.
Right, right. And then the men drilling additionally takes an enormous amount of effort. And I loved the archetype that you brought through of we're drilling for those deeper things within ourselves, or those gems within ourselves.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yes. So the last thing I want to do, because I almost forgot to do it again, but I want to bring in the Wisdom Keeper for Gene Key 20 from Rosy Aronson. Another beautiful.
Oh, that's gorgeous. Self-assurance.
Yes, yes. And so I'm going to read, today I'm going to read the gift, my gift to you. I come to bring you great relief. Your mind may be busy telling you what to do. That's okay. But for this moment, I invite you to smile tenderly at your sweet, worried mind and know that everything is going to be all right. Right now, there is nothing to do, nothing to make happen, nothing to worry about, nothing to regret. Not in this moment. Just take a deep breath and know that your life is in the hands of something far greater than you could ever imagine.
Mm,
There's more, but I'll leave it at that.
that's wonderful. That's wonderful. Wow.
Mm, mm.
To come into that state of presence, that state of self-assurance. Yes. It's a very, very important thing for us to be able to turn turn our our minds to that instead of letting the hectic take over.
Right. And this is so much of what a lot of our lives, there's so many opportunities for us to practice this. And I'll say it again. I really encourage people to be very gentle with themselves, to go ahead and make the intention to notice when you've been absent, or notice when you're running around in a hectic mode, and to just notice it and gently, very gently, bring yourself back into the present moment through your breath, through just saying, oh, look, I wasn't there. I'm coming back. Here I am. I'm present. Here I am in the present moment.
Yes.
And not worrying about how often that happens, because it happens all the time to all of us. and and but as we practice more and more, we'll find ourselves more able to shift back into that present moment awareness. So really, really love getting to talk about this. It is one of my favorite um, topics.
Yeah, absolutely. It's an amazing practice for us for this week. Margaret, thank you for bringing this forward for us and weaving all the symbology together to help us to be able to notice.
Yeah, you're so welcome.
Thank you. Well, this has been the Free to Be Free portal. Please like and subscribe and let us know how you are incorporating that awareness of the present moment this week. Thank you.
You. Bye bye.